How's it going, everybody? Mr. Holton here, and last week over 9,000 people over at Microsoft got laid off, and a large part of those people were part of Xbox. So what the hell is going on? Why are we seeing so many layoffs, especially with regards to Microsoft and Xbox? What is going on with the gaming industry in general? Like, this has been happening for a while now. There's been so many people laid off. There's been so many developers and studios shut down. When you look at it, like, it starts to look worrying. But for this video, I wanted to look past all the bullshit. I want to look past all the haze of what's going on and look back at exactly where this started and where we're at currently with the gaming industry, and especially with some focus on Xbox. Let's talk about the first part of the story here. Let's rewind back to 2020 to 2021. Most of you already know what I'm going to say here. And well, let's look at the pandemic. COVID-19 was the new reality for a lot of people, for a lot of studios, for a lot of companies around the world. COVID-19 and the pandemic, was the new way of life. People were sitting at home. People were working from home. People were consuming media more than ever. People were playing video games, watching TV shows, watching movies. Like, everybody was bored out of their fucking mind. And so they had to do something while at home. I know I kind of had to do something while I was still working, while I was taking my breaks. I could sit at home and just watch shows or play video games while I was waiting for my breaks to end. Things like that happened, and things like that happened to a lot of people all around the world. That was just the new normal. And here's the thing. A lot of companies like Microsoft, well, of course, Xbox, like Sony, all of the bigger entertainment companies around the world started investing very heavily into essentially scaling up. And what they did on Xbox, or for Microsoft especially, they acquired 40,000 people, over 40,000 people from 2020 to 2021 all over Microsoft. They were expanding like nobody else. Like, they were really taking the cake here when it came to employing new people and acquiring studios. And that was the next part with Xbox. What they did was they were like a kid in a candy store, right? They started picking up a lot of studios. For example, in 2021, they acquired ZeniMax Media, which is the umbrella company for Bethesda, id Software, Arcane, for a measly $7.5 billion. Then, in 2023, just 2 years ago, they bought the big one, Activision Blizzard, for $75 billion. Like, they were picking up everybody they could that they saw potential in. This was the new normal, right? All of the health experts, all of the scientists, everybody was talking about this like COVID could be the new normal. Of course, there was no guarantee, but a lot of companies just, felt like this was the right time to invest. Let's go all in on this. Again, Xbox really was going all in on this. So, acquire 40,000 developers, give or take, or 40,000 in terms of workforce. Microsoft, that is. Combine that with a bunch of studios that they bought up. They were spending money like crazy because they thought that they would get that money back. And of course, again, I can't blame them exactly because they have been up against PlayStation for so long. That is their main rival, right? That is, Sony and PlayStation. It's this rivalry. It's this eternal rivalry. It's always Xbox versus PlayStation. Who makes better games? Who has more games? And at the end of the day, this was the chance they had to trump PlayStation, to trump everybody else. But as we all know, their bet did not exactly pay off, because in 2023, that was also when they started laying off people. Microsoft laid off approximately 10,000 people, which is approximately like 5% of their entire workforce. It doesn't seem a lot, but it is a pretty big portion. And a lot of those people were working on Xbox or under Xbox. We had 343 Industries, who were the ones who were making the new generation of Halo, so to speak. The Coalition, who was making Gears of War, they were hit as well. Bethesda was hit as well. Again, we got this talk about it being a strategic reorganization to cut costs and stuff, and it's pretty obvious that it was partly due to COVID not being as big of a thing anymore. But that was unfortunately not the end of it, because as of this year, Microsoft again laid off over 6,000 people in May, and now in July they laid off 9,000 people again. So they are already above 20,000 people laid off across Microsoft, and a lot of them have been working under Xbox. Now, what is very ironic here, and why so many people see this as problematic especially, is because they have been reporting record profits and engagement. Like, Phil Spencer has been very positive about Xbox and the progress of Xbox, so this is like a weird shock. It's like, well, what? You guys are making money, why are you laying people off? But just looking at it logically, it doesn't seem to be all that well behind the scenes, or maybe it's something else. And we're going to get to that in a moment, but let's just shoot off some of the studios that have been affected by this recent layoff in July. We had The Initiative, who were making the Perfect Dark reboot, and the entire studio is offed. It's closed. It's gone. We will not be getting a Perfect Dark reboot. So for everybody who was very excited for that project, well, I'm sorry to say it's not happening. Rare's Everwild, this game that has been like, theorized about forever. People have been waiting to see more of this forever, but it's also poof, gone. There was the Project Blackbird, which Phil Spencer reportedly couldn't stop playing. He didn't want to put down the controller when he was playing the demo, and that is also just poof, gone. And also we had Romero Games, that was built by the literal guy behind Doom himself and his wife. And they were working together with their team to build a new franchise or a new game. And when I read about this, I was like, oh, this looks like it could be a cool thing. I'm very much looking forward to what they can cook up there, considering his legendary status, right? But that's seemingly on ice for now. We don't know if it's completely canceled. They just can't find any funding. They need funding for their studio, but as far as I can tell, they're not completely shut down yet, but funding has been pulled for their studio. Now, obviously, these are just some of the examples here. There are other studios that have been affected as well here, but still, it's like, okay, what is going on, Xbox? Why are you laying people off and cutting entire teams and talented people when everything seems to be going so swell? And here is where we get to the next part. Here is really the key to everything that is going on today. And I think this matters more with the recent layoffs than the COVID layoffs, so to speak. And that is, you guessed it, the rise of AI. AI is everywhere. AI is taking over. It's in your social medias. It's in your Xbox. It's in your PlayStation. It's in your games. It's everywhere. It's ChatGPT. It's Xbox's, or well, Microsoft's new proprietary AI. Like, it's everywhere. It's just, we are in the age of AI, or at the beginning of the age of AI, and a lot of companies, especially Microsoft, are going full hog on this thing. Just like they did with COVID, they are betting fully on AI. For example, Satya Nadella, who is Microsoft's CEO, said that approximately 30% of their product is currently AI generated. Now, let me say that again. Approximately 30% right now is AI generated. And again, don't get me wrong, I've said this before, I don't have a problem with AI as a tool. It can be a wonderful tool if you are a creator, if you are a creative mind in any way, and especially as a developer. Like, we've seen what AI can do with things like Unreal Engine 5, with how the fact that you can record yourself with your phone camera, that then you can like mocap a character in your game by just having the AI read your movement. It's insane, right? But it's really cool. That's the kind of stuff we want to see. Even Sven Vinke of Larian said that they are gonna use some form of automation or AI to make their games, but they empowered their devs with the use of AI. They're still the creatives that make the games. But from what it looks like, from my point of view, Microsoft seems to be in the idea that you can actually just replace some of the workforce with actual AI. Now, that kind of, when you really think about it, comes with a territory when you have help from a very powerful tool that lets you do things faster at a faster rate or do more with less. That kind of comes with the territory of, now you don't need as many people anymore because one person instead of 10 people can do this one thing. But there is a fine line where you can do stuff like maybe, scale up production, make more content, make more qualitative content, as well as more content overall. Maybe that is not something you can do for all games, but that is one solution. Like, you can find various ways to empower your devs instead of just constantly laying them off. But apparently, from Xbox and especially Microsoft here, again, keyword Microsoft, thinks that this is the way to go. They want to create more efficient systems. They want to create a more efficient business. So when you really think about it, now, personally speaking, I don't think you can lay everything on Xbox's leadership because they seem passionate about what they're doing. But on the other hand, they could have done so many things differently. And I think that's where we are heading right now in terms of, okay, whose fault is this? Who do we blame? And I hate laying the blame game on someone. Trust me, I hate doing that because things are usually way far more complicated than any of us can just say right off the bat that, oh, okay, it's this person doing this thing, or it's this company doing this thing. Everything is so goddamn complicated. But what they could have done, and I will say this to both Microsoft and Xbox, they could have been more responsible. Because a lot of people have been asking, wasn't there a way to prevent this? There must have been ways to prevent this catastrophe of, layoffs. And there was one point in time where you could have prevented this. And that was exactly back during COVID. Like, the whole problem essentially to me with especially over the 20,000 layoffs or such, that really started during COVID because there was a giant hiring spree and so many companies that have hired way too many people or scaled up irresponsibly. They completely bet on this idea that COVID was the new normal, and it just didn't work out. And that was the point during the COVID pandemic where you could have prevented this. For example, Nintendo. I've mentioned before, I have no great love for Nintendo nowadays, especially towards, with regards to their greed with, the Switch being like $700 in Sweden, the Switch 2 that is, and things like that. I can criticize Nintendo all day, but during COVID, they didn't actually go on this panic hiring spree like everybody else. They were pretty controlled. Larian is also a great example. As always, they scaled responsibly. And that is really the only point I can see where you can prevent things like these giant layoffs happening is scale responsibly, scale slowly, scale in tandem with the growth of your player base and things like that, instead of just, completely going, yeah, we're gonna bet everything on this. We're just gonna, yep, this is the new future. Let's go. Let's hire all the people. Let's buy all the companies. Because what happens when you realize that this is not the new reality? Well, you have to lay everybody off and you have to destroy entire studios. That is what happens. It's just logical. And so, yes, we can blame Xbox and we can blame Microsoft, but the question is, rather than always blaming this on CEOs with their massive bonuses, which is also a problem. Let's not, I'm not saying that's not a problem, because it definitely is when you have a CEO taking like huge bonuses of like tens of 20s to 30 to 40 million dollars, instead of maybe helping out the developers that are actually struggling, maybe, doing what Nintendo did back in the day when Nintendo's old CEO, God rest his soul, he took his own pay cut and essentially let everybody else and the staff have it. Like, he was trying to make sure that people didn't lose their jobs. I mean, that is admirable as all hell. And I wish more CEOs did this, because that is partly the reason why we're seeing also so many layoffs. It probably would still haven't made that much of an impact at the end of the day, but maybe it wouldn't be over 20,000 people losing their jobs. Maybe it would be like maybe something like maybe 19,000, 18,000. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but that would mean a lot for thousands of people. It's a very complicated situation, but now we are in the age of the AI. We are going to see more of this happen. There are going to be more layoffs. That's just logically looking at the landscape and looking at the future right now. It's just obvious that this is going to keep happening up until maybe, I don't know, EU regulation says that you can't use AI to replace this or this or this or this. And mark my words, there will be regulations in especially the EU. Who knows if there's going to be any in the US? As far as I've heard, there was put a stop to regulations against AI in the US. I don't know, but pretty sure there will be at some point. And I think it's a bad idea for Microsoft to bet everything on AI at this point. They really should be more responsible of how they plan ahead. And that, I think, is the biggest issue here. So, yeah, it's all screwed up. Of course, I've neglected to mention things like, inflation and things like that. Obviously, that increases like cost of living, and that is also a factor to all of this because, money is worth less nowadays. But maybe there's something here that I missed. Maybe there are other factors at play here. I really love having discussions about this respectfully, so let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, this has been Mr. Holton, signing off.